r/AskREDDIT. What is 10 times scarier at night than day? Embarrassing story time. When I was in elementary school I had a vertical fan at the end of my bed, and one night I went to sleep with my clothes basket still sitting on the bed. I don't know why, I just did. At like 3 in the morning I knocked it off in my sleep, and instead of knocking over the fan it scraped against the side, making a buzzing noise. So I woke up, terrified, to some crazy noise and not being able to see anyone, and for some reason the explanation my brain came up with was that there was a midget with a chainsaw hiding under my bed waiting to kill me. I laid petrified in my bed until it got light enough out for me to see the basket of clothes on the floor and piece together what had actually happened. I told my parents about it and still get made fun of for it almost 20 years later. Probably about a month before I moved out of my apartment in 2018 I was going to bed and my cat was at the foot of the bed. Usually she would leave the bed when I went to bed but that night she stayed there. I wasn't sleeping yet, just messing around on my phone when she went on high alert staring into the kitchen and living room. With the door to the bedroom and living room open it was a straight shot. She did it for so long that I got freaked out and turned on all the lights and investigated. Made sure all doors and windows were locked. I found nothing but it was quite a while before she or I calmed down and slept. The next day I remembered that I had a camera set up in the living room so I pulled it up just to see if I saw a ghost or something. I did not see a ghost. What I saw was something crawling on the cat's bed in the living room. It wasn't the best camera so I couldn't tell what it was, just that it was something, but I was thinking mouse. Several days passed and the cat didn't do the staring into the dark for 30 minutes thing again and I didn't see anything, so I figured whatever it was gone. Ha 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 no. I walked into the bathroom a few nights later and turned on the light and saw the largest roach I have ever seen in my fucking life, and I'm from Florida. I think I blacked out, but I think I killed it. I had lived in that apartment for almost 8 years and had never seen a roach, and until I moved out a month or so later it was the only roach I saw. So it's not always ghosts. Sometimes it's a giant fucking roach. There's a gap between the window and curtain so you get shadows and lights from cars and people passing by. Terrifying when at 3 a.m. you think someone's about to try climb in through your window. Where I went to college we had a satellite parking lot where I often had to park, because the tiny lot by my dorm was always full. It was on the opposite side of campus, along a dark and winding road, surrounded by thick trees. I hated the walk from the lot to my dorm late at night, freezing cold, dark, alone, unidentifiable shadows among the trees, sudden snaps and rustlings from somewhere off the road. Heart pounding, walking quickly, trying not to look to the left or right in case something looked back. When the suicidal friends send you a pretty lengthy message. It is scary during the day too, but waking up in the morning to read that literally destroys all your emotions and put you in a panic-fueled scared state. Windows and gaps between things. You look through them for long enough, you start to feel like you're about to see something move, and if it sees you as well, you're in danger. But of course, you know that there's nothing right outside your window. There's nothing between the trees on the other side of the road. There's nothing that could suddenly beeline for you, right? Some years ago I discovered that for me it's flying. I've flown a lot in my life. Starting very young. I'm annoyingly happy and excited when flying during the day. I had a night flight from Minneapolis to Phoenix. I had a panic attack while flying for the first time. I looked out the window and just completely lost it. I cried nearly the entire flight. Your apartment building's front door's glass shattering from inside to out. This happened some time ago. I was sleeping and suddenly pop, crash, and shatter. I lived just above the door so I got to experience it in its full glory. So anyway, I go check it out. Then I called the cops and the maintenance number. Then the neighbor next to me came to check it out too, and we wondered about it in the dark of night. The downside of living above the lobby that I hear all the strange things that happen in there and at the front yard. I guess there was a reason why this apartment used to be the caretaker's apartment. The woods, years ago at my grandma's house in the countryside, chatting with my older brother and some cousins, maybe 3 a.m., pitch black outside, we heard what sounded just like someone throwing rocks at the tin roof, probably by the dozen, one every 2 seconds or so. There's no way something fell on the roof, wasn't a branch or something laying on the roof, nothing. The only logical explanation is rocks. My uncle went out to look. Obviously saw nothing. The scariest thing is, the only people close by are good neighbors, and it's about a 10 to 20 minutes walk, and there wasn't even moonlight. A pair of balled-up white socks sitting in the corner. Yes, I was at a family camping retreat and being 10, I thought I was menacingly being watched by a wild rodent waiting to bite me at night in the tent. Once when my brother and I were kids, we went for a sleepover at our grandparents' house, leaving our mom and dad to enjoy some peace and quiet at home. Night came and my parents were in bed sleeping when my mom was suddenly awakened by the sound of someone playing our piano. They weren't playing music per se, according to my mom it sounded like they were testing the keys, hitting one note at a time. She woke my dad up and he grabbed the golf club he kept in his room for emergencies. Both of them dashed to the living room, turned on the light and my dad yelled, "WHO's there?" Two big eyes stared back at them. It was a cat. Somebody's car exploding right outside your bedroom window. This actually happened to me. It was around 7:30 p.m. but pitch black out because of the time of year. Turns out the guy had a leaky propane tank in his car and decided to light a cigarette. The explosion felt like it was going to knock the building over, it was so powerful. Craziest part is the guy somehow survived. I woke up in the middle of the night to 3 really loud booms. My brain instantly thought someone was hitting the side of our house with a baseball bat. We lived 20 miles from town. I was scared shitless, and walked out of my room with a knife behind my back. Then my mom peeked around the door in front of me really fast and scared me. She said, "Did you hear that? Stepdad killed a coon." Me, a coon? Oh okay. Stumbles back to bed. Woke up the next day and my mom tells me to come out and look at the cougar that tried to eat our dogs last night. I was shook and said I thought it was a raccoon, but it was a cougar. Big old cougar. Thankfully my stepdad's the lightest sleeper ever, otherwise our puppies would have been dead meat. The sounds. Any sound of night makes you think of things you wouldn't even think of by day. Even if you were the most adult possible, you'd be afraid of a sound or just the complete silence of the room. A squeak of the door, the sound of TV, some sounds or blows on the ceiling. Any sound at night is very scary than a simple sound of day. This happened to me. My mom decorated a shelf in my room when I was a teen. She put this clown that was a music box and it moved if you wound it up. Never touched it for years. It didn't bother me. Well, one day I go to the door, turn off the lights to go to bed and it starts going off for about 1 second. I has been there untouched for years. Scariest shit I ever seen. I slept on the couch that night, then promptly put it in my mom's closet. I went to my old high school years later as an overnight security guard, to prevent senior pranks on the last few weeks, and yeah, it's way different at night. Granted, it's been a decade and I barely remember it anyways. Hearing a distant security alarm going off. Especially when the air seems so still and there is absolutely no one around. There's something creepy about it. Also, when I was little, the volunteer fire service had air raid sirens spread out around my town. Being woken up to them winding up and wailing away at night would scare the fuck out of me. Hated that shit. Now it doesn't bother me. A dry suit hanging up in the shower. My housemate does kayaking and often leaves it there to dry when he gets back. Its fully body-shaped was absolutely terrifying when I first saw it around 3 a.m. when going for a piss. The feeling of being watched. During the day, if you see no one looking at you, you easily brush it off and the feeling goes away. At night, you can't exactly scan your surroundings to refute the idea of being watched. And you could stumble upon something that looks like eyes looking at you, adding fuel to the nightmare. Bonus if the eyes look red. One time, my friend's dad was up at 4 a.m. playing Resident Evil like 5 years ago, and some random guy knocked on the window and just smiled in at him. I know that would be creepy at the daytime, but at night it's like straight out of a horror movie. One time, McDonald's gave us a wrong order, and they tried to fix it. It was at night though, so when they knocked on the door, I screamed and went full-on attack mode. I didn't get the fries. Moral of the story: people at the door is freaking scary at night. Riding your bicycle home by yourself on a rural dirt road after watching an Unsolved Mysteries episode about alien abductions at your friend's house. Pretty sure I've never pedaled as hard as I did that night many years ago. Although I'm pretty sure it was way more than 10x scarier for me. Solitude, especially if you suffer from anxiety or depression. During the day you can drown your thoughts out in a million little things, but at night when everyone else is asleep, and you're awake, you have no choice but to settle in your own mind, and that's when the solitude eats at you. My children. When my children had learned to walk and climb out of their cribs, they used to bang on their bedroom door to be let out. That alone would startle us. One night, they did this and we got up to put them back to bed, and learned that children running at you when everything is still dark is terrifying until you realize what is going on. It may be one of the few times I screamed from fear in real life. Well, one time, dead of night, I was having trouble sleeping, so I was reading a book, and out of the blue, I just hear a Teletubby voice box go off, oh la la oh, and yeah, I almost died of fear on the spot. But it turned out my cat got into my mom's closet and climbed into the memorabilia box and set off the voice box. Mice in a forest. A lot of people jump at every noise in the forest while on a walk. One comment I saw on Reddit sticks out in my mind. The poster was insisting every noise they heard in the forest was aggressive bears. There aren't enough bears in the forest to be making all of those noises. If so, we would have a higher bear encounter rate. It's definitely smaller nocturnal animals that can run around and the occasional herd of deer. Source: looking though hundreds of nighttime trail cam pictures taken in a northeastern USA mixed stand. Lots of mice, a couple of deer, and no bears. Land navigation. Every single time it gets dark I get super on edge. Last time I was doing it, I was doing a 13 kilometers movement. Every little stick that broke I would listen. You can hear shit splashing in the water when you're busting a draw. I had that stupid song stuck in my head too, Tiptoe, Through the Tulip. And fuck, they told me to watch out for bears before we started. I'm from South Texas. I have no idea how to fight a bear. I live in a country where bears are common. I one time heard footsteps of something big while at night in the forest whilst metal detecting. I can honestly say it was the fastest I ran in my life. A similar thing happened in the day another time and I said out loud fuck off and just continued. I later saw the bear about 200 yards away and I just turned around and left without a hint of fear. My cellar. It's not a basement, it's a cellar. Dim lighting and dark corners, dirt floors and rough rock/concrete walls, a coal bin and hand-hewn beams dating from the mid-1800s, reminders of vermin that are routinely decimated by exterminators. I only go in it in the daytime if I absolutely have to. The shadow my open door casts into the room. Allow me to explain. One night, I was enjoying the comfort of my bed trying to get some sleep. I slept with the door open that night, and because of the angle of the moonlight shining through my window, the door's shadow ran up the side of the wall. I opened my eyes, and my depth perception must have been out of whack, I guess due to the darkness, because when I see the shadow it looks like a black cloak levitating in the middle of the room. It was terrifying only for a second, but that's the most horrified I've ever been.